So good, so good, so good.
New spring arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Rag & Bone, Marc Jacobs, Free People, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
It's crunch time at work, and you need to bring wings to your workday. Visit redbull.com/gettingitdone and answer a couple questions about your work style to get a Spotify customized playlist tuned to your productivity. Plus, score a can of Red Bull on us while you go from to-do to done. And remember, Red Bull gives you wings. Supplies are limited. Terms apply. Visit the website for more information.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. Today, I'm joined by my politics team colleague, Danielle Battaglia, who is our Washington, D.C. correspondent. It's been more than a month since the federal shutdown began. Danielle, I think the last time we talked about the shutdown, it was right on the eve of it. And it's been going on maybe longer than people thought. Where are we now? It's just been, people have missed paychecks. There's like a lot of other funding. Where do things stand now? Or is this going to continue for a while?
I mean, that's a good question. I think we're all asking that up here on Capitol Hill. One thing we're paying attention to was this weekend is, the start of open enrollment. And this is when you're going to start seeing your healthcare costs go up, partially because of the Affordable Care Act's there was a provision in that expires, or a credit in there that's going to expire. And so the Democrats have been fighting for an extension on that. And that's part of the reason we are shut down right now, is they want to get that extension to help protect healthcare costs and not have it hit your wallet. On top of that, they're also fighting for Medicaid cuts that were found in the One Big Beautiful Bill that passed in June-ish, July, to be revoked, basically. And so Democrats have been negotiating with Republicans trying to make this happen. And Republicans are like, we passed a clean CR. A CR is a continuing resolution to keep the basically the government funded at its current levels. And that was to go through November 21st. Since they're saying it's clean, they didn't put anything sneaky in there that would upset Democrats. They said there's nothing to negotiate, keep the government open. Democrats are saying this is our only tool to negotiate with you on these healthcare provisions to help Americans' pocketbooks. And so they've been going back and forth on this for a month. The longest federal shutdown that we have had in American history was 35 days. Thursday will be 36 days. So we are about to break records. And right now, there is no sign that we are going to meet each other in the middle and reopen the government. I think this could get really dicey next week. Congress is out for Veterans Day. They will be out the entire week. I should add, the House has not been here since September 19th. They've decided we don't want to negotiate. We're going to stay home. So House isn't here. It's only the Senate negotiating. They go home next week for Veterans Day to take that holiday off, and then they'll come back the week before Thanksgiving. That's when I think, if we're not reopened by then, we're going to see a lot of issues, because, one of the groups we're seeing cut is those federal workers at airports. And that's when you're going to start seeing travel's going to get really dicey for people trying to get home for the holidays. And you could start seeing people calling in sick or not showing up to work, because who wants to work with a lot of crazy, cranky travelers trying to get home, and, less people working. So, I think Thanksgiving could be what breaks them, but we'll see. I don't have a lot of hope right now. Yay.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. So North Carolina, we're affected in a lot of ways, I guess. I mean, the SNAP, airports. I mean, what are you seeing as far as the impact here? I guess maybe the most acute problems, because of the shutdown.
I'm always worried about the social safety net program. So the SNAP benefits, the WIC benefits, things like that. That's what we saw. And at the end of last month, so October 31st, there is some talks about how to keep those funded. Some of that is court ordered. So they're trying to navigate that right now, the federal government is, and we're waiting to see how that plays out. But I think that's when you're going to really start seeing North Carolinians get affected is, when they can't eat. That's a real human problem. And I've seen some, local officials saying, people deserve to go hungry because they're not working, but that's just, human decency is to feed people. And so, I think that's a very hurtful comment that I've been seeing online. And I think, I also got an email this morning from a reader asking how they can go volunteer at these restaurants that are trying to feed people that are missing their SNAP benefits. So I think, we really need to start looking out for each other and thinking about each other.
Where does our delegation play into all this? She said the House is home. So let's talk about them first, since they're not in DC. What are our House members doing?
Well, it's hard to say. We'll start there. Originally they went home after voting for the CR. They went home, they had a work period, which is where they're back in North Carolina, working with constituents, and doing, whatever they do when they're home. That could be campaigning, fundraising, getting you your passports, all those different things that they do back home. But they were supposed to be back a week later and they keep canceling votes. And so it's not like they have a district work period. They're just not here. I did see a picture of all of our House Republicans gathered around a table at the Capitol the other day. So obviously they aren't actually in North Carolina. They're up here with me. Not sure what they're doing, and I would love to know more. The Democrats have on and off been here. They've tried to make their presence in DC known to kind of put pressure on Speaker Johnson to say, we're here, we're ready to work. It's you who won't come in here and negotiate with us. So there's been more of a push with the Democrats to make their presence in DC known. So yeah, I can't really answer where our House members are right now.
Well, you do know where Senators Tillis and Budd are. Like, where are they in this, and what they're saying, what they're doing?
Yeah, they're wandering the halls of the Senate. I have seen them many times, probably much to their annoyance at this point, because there's only two of them for me to watch on the Hill. They keep coming in. There's still votes going on, not just on the budget, but we have some of the confirmations from President Trump trying to get people into his administration, his cabinet, all those things. Those are still going on. And so the Senate is still working. They're here day and night. They're still working an abbreviated schedule. So Monday they fly in, they won't be in. We're recording this on a Monday. They'll come in at 3:30 today. And they usually go home by 2:00 on Thursday. So ideally they're working like a late Monday to early Thursday shift, and then they go back to their districts. So yeah, that's how Congress is working right now.
Mm-hmm. How is Tillis kind of, the fact that he's not running for election impacted any of his point of view with messaging on this at all, do you think? Or Republicans pretty aligned and Democrats pretty aligned in how they're framing the debate?
There's a man up here who I love and adore. He operates the elevator at the Capitol. He is the kindest, sweetest man. And he looked at me the other day and said, have you noticed that since Senator Tillis decided not to run again, he's a completely different man, just calmer, happier, got a bounce in his steps? And it's true. His demeanor has changed. He is a lot more willing to say what he's thinking and not hold back. He tends to still stick with Republicans. I think that's always been a thing for him, is he is a Republican. He's a moderate Republican, but he's Republican. So unless they're doing something that he completely disagrees with, he stays on message with them. But that makes him a bit of a wild card, because you never know where that line is going to be. And that makes him an interesting figure to watch.
We're about to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about all of this going on in the shutdown government and all these needs and then the White House itself is being knocked down and rebuilt with a fancy new ballroom, and some North Carolina companies are helping to pay for it. So we're going to talk more about that after the break. We'll be right back.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw Surge. Great podcast pick, friend. No surprises there. After all, you're all about finding the tastiest flavors out there, just like White Claw Surge. And with big, bold flavors to enjoy, like blood orange, blackberry, cranberry, and more, it's time to go all in on taste. Unleash the flavor. Unleash White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. 8% alcohol by volume. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Don Vaughan, here with DC correspondent Danielle Battaglia. Before the break, we were talking about the impacts of the federal shutdown on the country, in North Carolina in particular, and what your representatives and senators in DC are doing or not doing about it. Also in DC, the executive branch, President Donald Trump has knocked down a lot of, maybe all of the East Wing to rebuild this ballroom. So what's happening, Danielle? Have you seen this? I heard like some of the images were hard to see what was going on when they knocked it down.
Yeah, so we work on the west side of the White House, so I have not seen it. The east side is where, if you're going to have a tour of the White House, you come in. If you've ever gone to a party at the White House, you go into that side. This is like the social side of the White House. It's where the First Lady works. It's where, if they're going to write an invitation to you or a card to you, the people who do that are on this side of the White House. And yeah, it got knocked down. Very shocking, because the president had promised, when he decided to build his ballroom that's going to be 90,000 square feet, that it would not touch the existing structure, nor would the existing structure be affected by it. And New York Times came out with the photos of it shut down. There was orders, because the Department of the Treasury is right up against the White House right there. They were ordered not to send photos out anywhere of the building going down. They tried to keep this pretty quiet. I don't know how you knock down part of the White House and keep it quiet, but here we are. So yeah, it was a little shocking. And like, this is a part of the White House, if you ever go to a Christmas party or have seen the photos of the Christmas parties, like absolutely gorgeous. You're greeted by the Marine Corps band. You walk into the building. It's that long hallway where it's always like beautifully decorated that leads you to the main residence. And I wrote in our newsletter this week, like, you've all seen it, because Melania Trump got a lot of crap for her spooky trees one year, because it was like these blood red Christmas trees down the hallway and nobody liked them. I did say that. I said to my editor, if the Kardashians had done it, it would have been stylish, but because it was Melania, everyone gave her crap for it. But that is the hallway we're talking about. That is no longer there.
I remember those very stark images of the red trees. Wasn't that the same year where those recorded calls came out later, where she was complaining about Christmas decorating, I believe?
Yes. Not a big fan of the Christmas.
So who's paying for this, and how's North Carolina part of that?
So there has been over 30 companies and individuals who have been released by the White House as donors for it. There are 2 from North Carolina. One is Reynolds America in Winston-Salem. They're the famous tobacco company. And then Tether American, which we probably know less about. They are a crypto business, and they're actually a subsidiary of a larger international business, but it's the local business in Charlotte that is now run by former crypto czar Bo Hines. I had to remember what his job title was.
Bo Hines, a former candidate, Bo Hines, right?
Yes, he's run for Congress twice and then became President Trump's crypto czar this year.
How are the optics playing on this, where, all these people are worried about being able to eat, and then there's a big ballroom under construction? What's the reception there in DC that this is happening?
It's not great. There's a little let them eat cake peasants kind of mood to it. I mean, you're building a ballroom while you are restricting access to food for a ton of Americans. This weekend headlines all over were that the president flew to Mar-a-Lago while building this ballroom, and he had a great Gatsby's Halloween themed party, and just like the irony of everything going on in America with this ballroom, his party theme, people not eating, people being affected with their paychecks. Yeah, there's lots of jokes going on, and not like really ha funny jokes, but like
Gallows humor.
yes.
All right. Well, you can read all of Danielle's coverage of the latest on the impacts of the federal shutdown in Congress. Let's move on to, one update I want to give before headliner of the week is here in the General Assembly, an update of, I feel like everybody is probably aware of it Friday, but Representative Cecil Brockman, the Democratic House member who's been in the High Point jail, facing serious sex crime charges with a minor. He has, despite all of these many calls to resign from Democrats and Republicans, had not resigned. And finally, on the end of last week, House Speaker Justin Hall he'd already announced that this was happening, but named the committee that would be investigating Brockman and deciding about his punishment, because the House can, in fact, throw lawmakers out. It's just like a long process to do this. And then within maybe an hour or so of that, the committee being laid out, everything they do. I have a story on that if you kind of wondered what the process would have been. And then Brockman's LA submitted his letter of resignation to the House clerk with the date changed. The date had actually been the week prior when Hall announced the committee was happening, and did not actually submit it until that went through. So he had a court date as we're recording this on Monday the 3rd. Our colleague Kyle Ingram is following that. So we'll have more coverage of that. All right. So let's move on to our picks for headliner of the week. Danielle, what is your headline?
I'm going to go with a congressional hearing, which sounds so boring, I know. But when President Trump took office, he had promised to give the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina federal recognition. And this week, there's going to be a congressional hearing to discuss the merits of giving them federal recognition. So this is a big step for them moving forward on whether Congress should do that or whether they should go through the Indian Bureau of Affairs to do it. And so I think you're going to hear both sides talk from the Lumbee and also the Cherokee and other tribes who may or may not be for or against this. So I think this hearing on Wednesday could be a big deal, both for the Lumbees, but also for Native American tribes who are trying to get this federal recognition later on. What about you?
Really, really big deal here in North Carolina. Another big deal, something totally away from politics, is a new dinosaur. If you've been, I had this, our colleague Josh Schaefer wrote a story about at the end of the week when it was announced, and I also put it in the Sunday Stein Under the Dome newsletter, that Jones Street has, in downtown Raleigh, been known for the home of the legislative building. Actually, now it's more famous resident is a new dinosaur, the Dueling Dinosaurs exhibit, which opened in the past couple of years. I can't remember the date because it kept getting postponed. Opened in the revamped, moved to the first floor Dino Lab at the Museum of Natural Sciences downtown, where, if you don't know where it is, it's the massive globe that everybody hopes doesn't end up rolling down the street at some point. Anyway, they thought the dueling dinosaurs were Triceratops and a teenage T-Rex, but it turns out it's something called a Nanotyrannus, and it wasn't a young T-Rex at all. It was this new type of Tyrannosaur. So that is a very cool and exciting development in the state, government complex. Just not total different kind of topic than what we usually have over there. So that's my headliner, the cool new dinosaur. And you guys should check out the museum. Our tax money funds it, and it's free admission with donation. So right downtown. All right. That's about all the time we have For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan with Danielle Battaglia, producer Laura Brache. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.